Okay, hello and welcome to the Movie Power Ranking Show. I'm your host, Gabe Alexander, and with me today is our critic, Mike Romick. Mike, how are you today?
Very good. How about you?
I'm well. So today we are going to continue our pandemic top 10 movies, and this show we're covering the year 2020. And just to give everyone a little history recap, it was in March of 2020 is when we first were declared in a pandemic. A nationwide lockdown commenced for 2 months after that, for March and April of 2020. Most of the U.S. was, shut down. I wasn't going to work. And a lot of things happened in the movie industry where the movies were basically just fleeing from the year 2020. Some things, movie theaters weren't open for most of the year. And so we got a lot on streaming. We got a lot of things shuffled around and moved back. So looking at my list from 2020, it's just the caliber of movie, I guess, isn't the greatest, but we still got some good things from 2020, Mike, and we're going to go onto our list first, Mike, but we're going to have our errors and omissions section covered first. My omission from last episode was I never said what score we were listening to open the show, and the score from the 2021 show was from Soul, and that was Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. They won the Oscar for that score for the movie Soul. And opening up the show today was from The Batman. That was a 2022 film, and Michael Giacchino does the score for that film. And that was
very film.
That was one of the things that stuck with me from that film was the score on The Batman. So, Mike, you had a change to your list from last show.
I was going over the 2021 list again, and I realized that I'd neglected to put on, and I can't add it to my top 10. I would like to, but I'll put it on my honorable mentions. Was the Harder They Fall, which I thought was a terrific Western and with an amazing cast, and Westerns are sort of few and far between, and I thought it was well done right down the line, and I'd like to add that to my honorable mentions for 2021.
Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed that film, and it's definitely worth checking out on Netflix. It is streaming. So. Okay, Mike, anything from last show that you missed or wanted to cover? If not, we will... Nothing?
I think I'm good other than that one omission.
Okay. Actually, you did me a favor and you counted up all the films you saw from 2021. Do you have a rough number for me?
Right. I had 96. Now that was just the new, the new releases for 2021. Of course, I saw way more movies than that. I mean, I ripped plastic on stuff. I saw, older movies and, that's things that, I wanted to see again. I didn't count them if I saw it twice. I just counted as once. So I ended up with 96 as my total for 2021 as far as just new releases.
Right. Films released from 2021. We both surely watched more than that. Just like you said, we cracked plastic on our movies at home, or we watched things where I certainly caught up on other things from other years. So,
and I also I counted it on how I recorded it. I counted it as stuff starting in March because I sort of went with the Oscar way, where January and February they allowed things to be released in streaming in January and February, which counted for 2020. So I actually counted starting with new releases in March of 2020 2021.
Okay. Yes, I did. I just did the calendar year.
Yes.
For mine, I had 84 films that I'd seen from 2021 when we recorded last week, and I think I caught up on a few others. So I'm probably at around 90 there for 2021. So what about 2020, Mike? Did you count up how many did you see from 2020? And that would include those then 2 months in
Right.
2021.
Now, I'm a big believer in, going to the movies. I like to see it on the big screen, and that sort of wasn't happening. And so I really didn't have a whole lot of streaming services at the beginning, but of course, as the year progressed, there was, what else could you do? So, like I said, I had, actually only 56, which, but again, that was just, 2020 releases. And, again, like I said, very few at the movie theaters because they weren't open. And so, again, mainly from streaming services, which of course, by necessity, I had to add streaming services as the year went on. And then, it's great that there's a whole lot of movies that I would have missed that I was able to stream. But again, I'm still a big believer in, going to the movies. I have that, Regal Unlimited, and, I use that as often as I can.
I have 74 from 2020. I
Wow.
may have caught 1 or 2 more, so we'll just kind of maybe put it around the 75 mark.
Right.
Again, yeah, most of those I did were streaming or, we had some theatrical releases in January and February of 2020. I think there were some experiments to try to get things in there like Tenet, maybe, I think, remember being released in theaters. But yeah, most of this stuff I caught streaming, and I am not as big of a patronage or whatever you want to, a patron of the movies as much anymore. Well, now that we have the options of, streaming and home entertainment, I much rather enjoy watching at home. I'm kind of, this is our generational difference maybe, Mike, so.
And, and things are now coming so quickly. I mean, as I just mentioned earlier, I mean, the Batman is, a big worldwide hit and all, and, it's going to be on HBO Max. I think it's later in the month. I mean, oh my God.
Monday. It'll be
Monday.
Monday on the 18th.
Wow.
Of April.
Wow.
So, yeah, just, I did catch that in the theater, and it doesn't seem that long ago that we saw that. So
No, it does not.
Already coming on the streaming, so that's
Right.
that's the future we're in. Like, that is the movie industry as we know it now. Streaming will be.
I had a question. Are you thinking, what's the next thing you may break down and go to the movies to see? Doctor Strange or not?
Doctor Strange will probably be one I'll catch at the theaters. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And then after that, who knows? I mean, Thor will be in July. There's a Jurassic Park in June of this year, maybe that. But it'll be those big ones, the big blockbusters, and then everything else I'll catch either streaming or on 4K down the road. So, yeah, that's just kind of the reality of it. And, sitting in the theater with a crowd of people, sometimes after a pandemic, it's a different experience. More things go across your mind these days. So,
and the thing is, liking it, but again, I'm not stupid. I don't go on a Saturday night or a Friday night. We go in the afternoon, and where I usually go, they're big auditoriums, and again, usually there's a handful of people there. I mean, you can usually tell when I pull up and I see the parking lot that we're going to be okay. I mean, there's 20 screens, and but like I said, we have not been in an auditorium that had a lot. Other than there's another place I go that has much smaller auditoriums, and that can be problematical. I mean, when they've got like 40 or 60 seats, I mean, it can sell out on something that's whether it's the Batman or something else like that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's movie industry is going to be a little different after this, and in movie theaters, I've kind of made a prediction that we may see movie theaters go the way of the comic book store, where they may become few and far between. It'll be for a niche audience that goes, but I think a lot of people, I mean, especially as the younger generations get older, I think they're going to become more used to streaming and watching things at home. And maybe I'm wrong, Mike, but we'll see.
People have been killing the movie theaters forever. I mean, radio was going to kill it, and television was going to kill it, and Redbox is going to kill it, and Netflix is going to kill it. Whether it's young or old, people want to go out to eat, go to the movies, get out of the house, see something on the big screen. And again, whether it's going to really hurt I think it's going to hurt the independent and the foreign films will be something that will probably be more of a streaming, and then it will be the events. And that's a shame because I like to see a big event movie too, but I like to see watch a independent movie, whatever, on the screen, and not be interrupted by a cell phone call or something else that disrupts you from the movie again. But like I said, they've been killing movies for forever, and they've still survived, and I hope they do.
Well,
but like I said, it will be different. It will definitely be different.
Yeah, fair point. And everyone's going to want to go out and catch a big movie. And I agree. I think that this will probably hurt the independents, but maybe not. Maybe it will give more opportunities for them on the streaming platforms, and where they might not normally get a theatrical release, they may get the release on a streaming platform. And that's kind of how I like to catch those smaller movies and independents. Like, I'm not going to go to the theater to catch it, but if I can catch it the weekend it comes out on a streaming platform, I mean, I'm there. So, no, I think for documentaries and internationals and independents, we'll see what the future holds for those. I'm hoping that the opportunity opens up on the streaming platforms, but again, we could also see the opposite, where many of those aren't greenlit because of just the theatrical experience we're going to have.
There's also on demand too. I mean, just recently, I wanted to see The Worst Person in the World before the Oscars, and it just was inconvenient for me where it was playing was, on the far side of Cleveland, and it just would be a long haul for me to go there. And I thought, no, so I just paid for it on demand, and it completely enjoyed it. I mean, I would have enjoyed it going to the movie theater, but it just worked out better for me to pay the $6.99 on demand. I wasn't paying the $20 for Cyrano, but again, I did pay $6.99 for Worst Person in the World.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think the options are good. More options we have, the better. If you can do it in the theater, if you can do it on demand, and then if you want to wait for streaming or the home video release, those are all options that consumers have. And
one thing I've noticed that sort of I think is a negative is how things become disposable. Everybody talks about something that's, the number one movie on Netflix or the number one on Amazon Prime or something. And, for a week, maybe two, all of a sudden, that's what people are interested in. And then they move on to the next shiny object, and it's kind of forgotten about. And again, it's just a shame because, where movies at movie theater used to linger and people would find a movie or word of mouth would help it and whatever. And now it's like, the choices are so vast that, that it just things have a smaller shelf life than they did when they were, exclusively at the movies for whatever, 6 weeks. Back in the day, things used to last, months and months. I ran a movie theater and we played things for, 6 months. I mean, whether it was Mr. Mom or Romancing the Stone or it was Rocky III. I mean, now, movies don't last that long because Bing Bang Bong, they're on demand and, they want to get the video or Blu-ray release out there. But again, with the streaming service, something is hot for a week and then, or two, and then it's gone. It's not necessarily gone, but it's forgotten.
Yep. I'll counter that with just saying if it's a good product, if it's a good thing, it will have the staying power, just like in the movie theaters. People will continue to talk about something if it's streaming on Netflix, if it's something good. I mean, the Squid Game phenomenon, that lasted. People were talking
there are
about
exceptions. I
just
agree with
at,
I agree with
so
that. There are
there are
exceptions.
things that will make it. There are things that will make it past that window, but yeah, you're right in a way that and that's even with the theatrical releases. Every next Friday we're on to the next one, unless it's a big movie like The Batman, where the studios might stay away from that for a week or two. So, we'll see. The market is what it is, and it'll do what it'll do. And us movie watchers, we just adjust and gonna have to do the best we can to catch what we can. So,
All right, let's mosey in the time machine back to 2020.
Yes. So our format will be like last time, Mike. We're gonna just each go. We're gonna rotate and each give a movie off our list. If there's a repeat, we'll say there's a repeat, or if it's on our honorable mention. So then we'll go through our top 10. We'll do a few honorable mentions, and I have a couple worst of the years. We'll do a recap where we'll read off our top 10s, and then we'll wrap up and give the listeners a hint of things to come for the coming weeks.
My order on this one, I went how I saw them, not how necessarily they were released or alphabetical or in an order of best to, my favorite, whatever. I just did it how I saw them. How did you list yours?
Mine are just random. I just was plugging in. I was looking at the movies I saw from the year, and I was just plugging in things that stood out to me from that year. So, let's kick it off, Mike. Let's get one from your top 10 of 2020.
Okay. I have The Vast of the Night, which I had read a phenomenal review in the New York Times, and I thought, I had never heard of it. And I was able to track it down, and I think you and I watched it together, and a small little independent thing probably cost next to nothing, and we were on the edge of our seats from beginning to end. A wonderful movie that just didn't need a whole bunch of fancy special effects or anything to really tantalize you in a sci-fi way.
I liked that movie a lot. Just looked it up. Technically, IMDb has it as a 2019.
Really?
And then just to correct you on the title, it is The Vast of Night.
Oh, it's not it's The Vast of Night. But they have listed as a 2019 release?
They had it as a 2019, May of 2019, but again, there are no rules here, Mike, and we'll accept your 2020. But no, I think that had been out there for a little bit, but I remember you telling me to watch that, and it's not a big movie of any kind. It's very on a smaller scale, but it does deal with the sci-fi genre there. And
as far as does IMDb list whether, so in 2019 you're thinking it had a theatrical release?
Just the poster on it had May of 2020 or 2019. It was released on Amazon streaming.
Because when the New York Times, believe it or not, they make an effort to review every release that comes to New York, which almost everything, of course, does go to New York. And I saw it when they released it and did what they do, a recommend or whatever. But again, that was in 2020 as far as, at that point it was streaming. So I'm thinking, maybe it had a theatrical release, but maybe like film festivals or something. But like I said, we'll put a little asterisk next to that. But that was, according to my list, the first 2020 movie I saw.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not, I'm not going to challenge that in any way. Let me dig a little deeper here into IMDb, but it's not giving me even box office numbers. So, no, you're right, Mike. May 29th of 2020. Looks like IMDb just has it as 2019, but no, looks like that was in May of 2020 when that came out streaming. So, no, we're not going to argue over that. I think, IMDb may just have that. They'll be off a year because maybe it was the year it was produced and then it wasn't released until 2020.
When it showed at film festivals or something, but, I never remember that playing at the movie theaters. Like I said, if I hadn't read that review, it's something that I wouldn't
really gone
No,
on my list.
no, I'm glad you brought that one up because I actually didn't even have it on my list of 2020 movies, and since I probably looked it up on IMDb, I probably put it as 2019. So, no, I'm glad you brought that up because that would have been at least made my honorable mention as
What's your first one on your 2020 list?
Okay, so I usually do an animated on every year on my top 10. So this year my animated movie was Soul from Pixar, and that had Jamie Foxx as the lead and Tina Fey as one of the souls. And very I don't know if this movie's for kids, but as far as a 2020 pandemic film, I enjoyed it very much. I think this was released on Disney Plus streaming, and just a really nicely done movie. Great score. Won the Academy Award, and John Baptiste won 2 for his jazz music in that, and great, visually great, great music, and this is my animated for the year for 2020.
No, I liked it very much, but I also I think it went straight to streaming. It did not have a release at the movie theaters, and which was very odd. But of course, it's odd times. But I mean, like I talked about in our previous show, is that here is an animated movie that really requires you to have to accept the concept. You got to be a little older. I mean, I think little kids may have enjoyed, whether it's the music and the colors and all that, but whether they would have got the story, that would have been. I wouldn't want to be an adult trying to explain to my kid what all that meant and trying to get them to understand it. But I think, kids, like whether it's Inside Out, which had lots of unusual, not difficult, but more adult concepts that, kids can enjoy it for what it is as opposed to understanding everything that's going on, which is why I really liked Luca last year, because I don't think kids would understand the story without having lots of questions during the movie or after. But like I said, I like Soul also.
Okay, let's move on. Let's get another one from you, Mike.
The next one was Da 5 Bloods. Again, criminally neglected by the Academy, particularly for Delroy Lindo. A Spike Lee movie. I thought it was extremely well done. I mean, a good story, good cast, and I was with it beginning to end. And I really liked Da 5 Bloods. And once again, one of those ones that was talked about the first week it came out, and then it just went into the ether.
Yeah, I think you liked it a little more than I did. I feel like that movie probably ran on a little too long, and
it's true. Yeah.
I liked the Chadwick Boseman thing, but in the film, and the Delroy Lindo, I think he probably could have got a little more recognition for that. So, okay, I'll move on. I'll move on to another one. This is a movie that was even forgotten in 2020 during the pandemic year. It snuck out there, and then the YouTubers I watched turned me on to this film, and it's now made my top 10, and that movie is The Empty Man. And I recommended this to you, Mike. I'd like to throw some horror on my top 10 sometime, and this is a horror that you don't know where it's going. I thought it might have been a slasher film for a point. I thought it was like a cosmic horror, which I think is probably the more correct way to put it, is a cosmic horror film. And the director, let me just double check myself, is I believe David Pryor, and he worked with David Fincher a lot, and you can see those fingerprints on this film. Yes, I'm right, David Pryor, and he would direct like the extras on David Fincher, Blu-ray releases. And now he's kind of getting his break, and I can't recommend The Empty Man more for fans of horror. So.
And I did watch it at your recommendation. I remember I liked it, but when I saw it, I'm going over the movies I saw, I didn't remember it. Now that you refresh my memory, I remember that I liked it, but again, it was one of those that, just faded for me, other than I remember I liked it. But, was there anyone in it of consequence? I forget.
James Badge Dale was the lead in that.
Okay.
Okay, let's move on to one from you, Mike.
Okay, next on my list again, thank God for Netflix. Terrific Aaron Sorkin movie with an absolutely amazing cast, The Trial of the Chicago 7. Again, I had seen documentaries and things on that. I thought I knew the story, and boy, I did not. And again, whether there's not everything necessarily is true. It's a movie after all. But again, I was with it every step of the way, and probably better to go to streaming. I don't know if that would have done any kind of major business at the box office, despite that cast. But again, thought it was, as usual with his work, well written and well cast, and I just a terrific story that needed to be told, and it was told very well.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a repeat for me. That's on my top 10. Love the cast and the story behind it. And yeah, it's like you think you know the truth, and then you see something like this, and it's just kind of gives you a different view of things. So no, going to be a repeat for me. So let me move on. I have 2 documentaries on my list this year, so I'll give one, and that is My Octopus Teacher. I believe it won the Oscar. I mean, this movie, I'd heard things of it even before the Oscar nominations, and I caught it. I was like, yeah, I'll check this out. And then when I started, I just couldn't stop, and the movie affected me deeply as far as being an animal lover and just seeing the relationship this guy builds with this octopus. It's just amazing. This is a must-see documentary from any year, and this is on Netflix. You can catch this. So, Mike, do you have thoughts on My Octopus Teacher?
As my best documentary of the year, there's no question. Because I had heard of it, but I did not see it, and then you recommended it so strongly to me. I watched it, and I just loved it. I mean, if you don't get misty-eyed at the end of that, there's something wrong with you. Again, it was a terrific documentary.
Yep. Okay, Mike, let's move on and get one for your list.
Well, I had Mank, and now I am old enough to remember all the hubbub over Pauline Kael and her Citizen Kane book, and, more or less, she had all these people to interview, and she did not interview them. She went with what John Houseman, the producer of the Mercury Theater, and of course him and Orson Welles had a falling out, and, more or less, the implication was that, how little Orson Welles had to do with Citizen Kane other than starring in it, producing it, directing it, co-writing it. I mean, just stunning to me. And, and there's a great article called Raising Kane that's from Esquire magazine, where Peter Bogdanovich, of course a good friend of Orson Welles, combats each of her, or a lot of her points in the article. And I went back and reread it. I was able to pull it up online. And it was just damning. And there's a biography of Pauline Kael where, she's having dinner with, of all people, Woody Allen. And, she says, how do I combat this? I mean, because it was shocking that he was able to, refute her points again. And she wrote this in New Yorker, and then it was published as a book along with, of all things, the Citizen Kane screenplay. And Woody Allen tells you, just don't say anything. Just let it go. It'll go away. And kind of it did. And, of course, I went into Mank saying that, I don't know, because, of course, I thought it was going to be, a different movie than it was. And, of course, just technically a marvel, black and white, looking great, cast, like, I perfectly right down the line again. And again, the whole, authorship of the screenplay is just a small part of it. I mean, there's a whole lot more to it, and I ended up thinking it was a wonderful movie. And Orson Welles, is kind of the auteur there. It's not Herman J. Mankiewicz. But anyway, that's beside the point. I thought it was terrific.
Hmm. No, that made my honorable mention. I agree with everything you've said there. Cast, photography, just the kind of the whole story of it is very interesting. So, and makes you kind of want to watch Citizen Kane again too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to move on to my other documentary on my top 10 from this year or last year. I couldn't leave it off, Mike. It just, after I watched this, it stayed with me and it brought back so many memories that I'm sure it did for you. And that is The Last Blockbuster.
Oh yeah.
I love that documentary. And, just as a, you used to work there, Mike, and,
For 25 years, thank you very much.
Yes, managed the store for 25 years. The memories I had of going in and getting movies, and even if it wasn't a Blockbuster, if it was from another chain or something. And I did work.
Video store yourself. So.
I worked at a video store myself, a Broadway Video it was called, and I couldn't have had a better job. And just brought back those memories. And being collectors like we are too, I mean, there's just nothing like the opening of a DVD and the snapping of it closed. And gosh, Mike, I can't imagine how many times you did that. So it's
and the strolling around the store where you didn't know what you want, because having worked there for so many years, people wanted the new releases, and then I had regular customers, and I said, if you haven't seen the movie, it's the same as the new release. It's new to you. And so, I had customers that I could recommend things to, but most people wanted the shiny new object that was out that week. And, I worked there and I'd get the rentals for free, and, I would stroll around and, oh yeah, I've not seen that or whatever, and pick something up. And then, of course, if something didn't rent for a period of 6 months or whatever, you usually put it out for sale. And it was like, I was waiting for things to come out that, I wanted to buy for me. And, but no, the idea of being able to stroll up and down the rows and, find a hidden gem or something you didn't know anything about, but, well, that was good. Sometimes you got a stinker, but sometimes you didn't. But, I enjoyed it too. And again, I didn't find, if I remember correctly, I didn't think there was anything wrong that I found in there as far as, like a major mistake. No, I didn't. So really, I enjoyed that too, very much.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's get another one.
Oh, okay. Now here's where we're going to have a big disagreement, because I know you didn't care for it, and you're out on a limb here, but I thought it was terrific. Promising Young Woman. I mean, she won, was nominated for Academy Award. She won for Best Original Screenplay, and Carey Mulligan, just amazing. And, I liked it very, very much. And I had nothing going into that. I mean, other than I read the reviews, I thought, wow, okay. And, no, I just thought it had a terrific story and a lot of good twists. Didn't know where it was headed, but I know you didn't care for it, which again, you're entitled to your opinion, even if it's wrong.
Right. It was the overhype of the film that I kind of turned me off on it. And it's a good film. I kind of have it on my honorable mention. It's kind of my last honorable mention. But I don't know if this movie's for everyone again. And, it's like maybe a little bit of the power of the dog situation, where maybe not everyone's gonna really get this movie, and maybe not.
You didn't come out with a smile on your face, that's
no,
for sure.
There's no one likable, and I think that might be what it was. Is there's no likable characters here.
Oh yeah,
and I think there could be some generational issues with this film. This is definitely made for younger folks. And next week we'll talk about do our regular weekly show. But it's almost like when I see pandering to the younger audience, and I watched the Judd Apatow, The Bubble, and you want to talk about straight pandering to the younger audience, I couldn't take it. I couldn't take it. And I saw this movie doing it a little. It wasn't as blatant, but there's just something about that movie just kind of just didn't stick with me. I you know, I gave suggestions on what I would have done with the film, and again, you know, whatever the writer and director want to do there, that was fine. But just, you know, we're going to disagree still, and maybe I should give it another chance. But I just couldn't. I didn't understand that high praise for that film. No, but I did put it on my honorable mentions because I think it's worth seeing. You know,
moving on.
I'm going to get into. Well, it was a weak year, 2020. So I have 2 documentaries and I have 2 horror, and this horror made it to theaters. And this is Universal. If you're listening, this is how you reboot your Universal horror characters, and this was The Invisible Man.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you want to talk about a tense movie with not a lot of special effects, just acting and the direction and the production. And I mean, I'm sure I watched this at home during the pandemic, and I know I was on the edge of my seat during that film. And I just kind of wanted to put it on my top 10 just to be like, hey, like this, we don't need The Mummy with Tom Cruise. If you can get a smaller film like this, where it's scary and tense, and this really kind of, I think, reinvigorates that Universal horror monster character better than any of the others they've done, which are like Dracula Untold, and then The Mummy, of course, with Tom Cruise. This was the way to go, I think, for me. So
Okay, I agree with you 100%, but I need you to check IMDb there, because I don't think that was a 2020 release, because I saw it at the movies, but I don't think it came out in 2020.
Yes, it is. It's a 2020. Because this was a pre-pandemic. I believe it was February of 2020, if I am not mistaken. Let me dig into IMDb a little here and make sure. Yep, released of February 28th of 2020, so just before the pandemic.
Wow. Okay, because I would definitely have that on my top 10 also, but again, I was thinking that came out earlier, so my list, yeah, like I said, I agree. That's on my top 10 then, so, because like I said, I had that as the wrong year.
Made 143 million gross worldwide.
Yeah, got good reviews and did terrific business, and yeah.
Okay, so let's go, Mike. Let's get another one.
Okay. I have One Night in Miami. Some people griped about that it was, like a photograph play because it's a play, whatever. But once again, a terrific cast, a good story, whether it was, a little embellished with the facts, but no, I thought it was well done right down the line.
Yep, I liked it too. It didn't make any of my either top 10 or my honorable mentions, but I know this is a Criterion. Definitely worth seeing, and I think like the ending of the movie is kind of what stuck with me the most on that, where who is it? He sings his song at the end, and I thought it was a pretty powerful movie, and definitely worth seeing.
Right.
And you can check it out on Criterion because they have it released on Blu-ray and DVD. Okay, I'm going to do another streamer, and that is the Michael Keaton starring Worth, about the September 11th victims and what the financial, I guess, payout was going to be to the remaining family members of the police and firemen that lost their lives on September 11th, and this just whole legal battle about what is the dollar amount you're going to put on someone's life, and the discrepancy between what they were going to give a janitor and what they were going to give like someone who was like an executive of a company, and definitely a powerful, strong movie. Stayed with me, and after watching it, and no, I think it's like I said, one of the better movies from 2020 that came out that year, and it's streaming on Netflix. So,
oh yeah, I had that on my honorable mentions. That was wonderful. Again, everybody should see that. Again, you tell people what it's about, and they go, I don't want to see that, but no, it holds you, and the fact that that's what they had to do was just,
yeah.
Again, would you compare it favorably to Dope Sick? I did not see Dope Sick, that miniseries about the opioid crisis and lawyers and stuff. Would you compare a similar type thing as that?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to go on a Michael Keaton kick, yeah. Dope Sick, I once I started, I couldn't stop. It was a really good show on Hulu.
He's the lawyer in that also?
He's a doctor, and he's a doctor
who
ends up becoming addicted himself to opioids.
Oh my. Okay.
Yeah, that's a good watch too. So I mean, if you want to do a good double feature, watch Worth and then do Dope Sick on Hulu, and yeah, you'll get a good film. Michael Keaton and a little history on the last 20 some years. So yeah, all right, I'm gonna move on. Did you just do one, Mike?
No, I think you did Worth. So I'm going to do
okay.
One that gets a bad rap as being, good for you and unpleasant and nobody liked it. Again, it was Nomadland. I know, I mean, I was well directed, well written, well acted, a good story to tell, and maybe it's not a blockbuster, thing like The Batman or something, but still, I thought it was a very well done movie, and they say it's the kind of the kind of movie that kills movies because people don't want to see it. Well, it's a terrific movie, and regardless of whether there was a big audience for that, I thought it was terrific.
Yeah, no, it's a repeat for me. It's on my list, and it's just a good slice of life of a group of people who you don't normally see highlighted. I know that there's an interesting point made in that film where you're going to ask yourself, if you're going to watch Nomadland, like why live like that? Why live in a van or RV or something like that? And I think kind of the point the movie makes is because Frances McDormand's character is given a chance to live in a home, and she rejects it. And it's not out of like money, or money's not the issue or anything. I think it's the point the film's making is like there's just some people that want this lifestyle and they want to live this way, and that's up to them. And that's the kind of interesting thing I saw about the film, because you're going to think that, well, these people are just poor and that's why they're living this way. And that does have something to do with it. But, in the film, it also does show you that, there are people that are given an opportunity to have a home and they still, choose to live the nomad lifestyle, which, is interesting.
Yep. Couldn't agree more. Yeah. What's your next choice?
I have Sound of Metal. Now this, if you want to talk about Coda and this, I mean, I'm gonna pick Coda. I'm gonna pick Sound of Metal over Coda. I mean, all day. And this, I think, really, whereas Coda is more of a uplifting kind of, family friendly story, the Sound of Metal is kind of a more rougher take on the deaf community, and Riz Ahmed in this was great, and I really enjoyed this movie. And again, if you want to watch a movie about the deaf community, I'd point you towards this rather than Coda. So, What do you think, Mike?
So I had that on my honorable mentions, and I also thought he was terrific. And I sort of dragged my feet on going to that. I thought, I don't know, but the reviews were terrific, and no, I really liked it, and I agree with you.
Yeah.
Okay, my last two, I'll go with one first, is my best female performance of the year in a movie I recommended to people, and I haven't had one person that did not like it, is I Care a Lot with Rosamund Pike. A dark, I don't know, I guess you'd just say a drama, but again, just an amazing characterization on a woman who is just evil to the core, and you just want her to, as they say in Magnificent Ambersons, get her comeuppance. And I thought, it was not only that she was amazing, but again, she had the script and the direction and the supporting cast, everybody just came through, and Peter Dinklage in a supporting part. I mean, I thought it was a great movie.
That was a repeat for me, and that would clear my top 10 out. I think you said it. I mean, the less you know about this, the better too, going into it.
Yeah.
I know you had recommended it to me, and I didn't really know much about it, but once you get into it, yeah, once you just watch this, because it's a good one. And yeah, I mean, Peter Dinklage in it is great. This again, it's a movie where you don't like any of the characters, but for some reason this one works way better than Promising Young Woman for me. And
but again, it was so compelling because you really didn't know where it was going, and Diane Wiest is in a wonderful supporting part also, and you're just waiting. You're waiting for her to get caught, more or less, without saying too much. And, that's all we'll say. But like I said, it was great. Yeah. And my last one on because you're done with your list, you said?
I'm done. So let's get your last
one more. I have The Father, which, again, I thought Anthony Hopkins, no problem with him getting the Oscar. He gave a terrific performance, as did Olivia Colman. And I'm so glad it got script based on a play. But again, it was, you suddenly, when something happens where all of a sudden different people are playing the same character, and then you realize as the audience you are like determining reality as an Alzheimer patient would, which is what Anthony Hopkins is playing. And I thought, I thought it was, quite unusual, original, and I was quite impressed with that. So, do you want to just read your list down now, or how
yep.
you want to do it?
Let's just do a recap then of our top 10. Okay. I'll start with mine. I have I Care a Lot. I have Nomadland, Sound of Metal, Worth, The Invisible Man, The Last Blockbuster, The Trial of the Chicago 7, My Octopus Teacher, The Empty Man, and Pixar's Soul.
Okay, I have The Vast of Night, The Five Bloods, Trial of Chicago 7, Mank, Promising Young Woman, One Night in Miami, Nomadland, I Care a Lot, The Father, and I was able to put on Invisible Man and moved another one to my honorable mention list. So that was my top 10. What are your honorable mentions?
I have Mank as my honorable mention. I have Promising Young Woman. And there's one that we haven't talked about today, and that's something we watched together and stuck with me. Not necessarily a movie, not necessarily a documentary, but it was Derek Delgadio's In and of Itself.
Yes. I was recommended that so highly, and then I saw it, and I told you, you've got to watch it, and again, a unique, one-of-a-kind thing. There's nothing else like it.
Yes, I would say it's more of like it's a magic and I guess a magic and an illusionist who did a kind of like an off-Broadway
and
run.
a life lesson thing. Oh, what I wouldn't have loved to have seen it off Broadway.
Right.
What,
Yeah. Yeah. But no, definitely worth checking out, and I think that's on Hulu. So, Mike, what about your honorable mentions? You have
Okay.
any there?
Well, again, some of these we've discussed. I had Sound of Metal, I had Worth, I had Last Blockbuster, and one we haven't discussed, The Mauritanian, which again,
I like
sort of
very
a prisoner of war thing, and with Jodie Foster with the reddest lips you've ever seen in your life. But our lead actor, brilliant. I mean, just, he is the Mauritanian, and just, so tense, so involving. I mean, a wonderful movie that, they pushed him for Best Actor. And again, I'm not going to attempt to remember or say his name, so you might pull it up on IMDb there. But again, he was amazing, and there we have a performance that the movie wouldn't have worked without him, and with him, firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, I would also recommend this movie. I enjoyed it too. I'm not going to try to attempt his name. Tahar Rahim is who I think you're talking about. So, yeah, very good. It's about a guy detained in Guantanamo Bay, and then the lawyers who are representing him. So, yes, check that out as well. That is a good tale about again the history from the last 20 years. Okay, wrapping it up. Do you have any worst of the year?
Oh, I do. I certainly do.
Okay.
And I have the first one on here is I know you liked it, which again I assume there was some mental issue there, but we'll let that go. Leave that for the doctors. Underwater. Kristen Stewart. Again, not so much her fault here, but I mean I just thought it was not suspenseful, ugly to look at, dark, just no. And then I had a movie that was wildly praised, which I hated beginning to end, was Kajillionaire, with a good cast, totally wasted, and just as irritating as the movie as I saw, I don't know, the last 2 years. Everything about it was just irritating. And again, just a family that's just, it's not only you don't care for them, you hate them. I mean, they're all awful. And then, speaking of an awful family, you have the Hillbilly Elegy, the Ron Howard film that just with Amy Adams and poor Glenn Close and just that J.D. Vance, poor me. I just hated it. I mean, and of course he, book big bestseller, and they had high hopes for the movies. Well, the reviews they didn't lead you astray when they said it was bad. It was bad. And then a movie I was looking forward to, Midnight Sky, the George Clooney, and just wasted. I mean, it was sort of like a Gravity Part 2, and just, there's a plot twist in it that you just go, no, don't do that, and they did it, and just technically nice, but just bad script, not well acted. And then my last one is sort of a shocking choice because, again, as I had on a couple of my 10 worst 2021, a movie that was, I didn't read a bad review for, Another Round. I mean, yeah, the acting was good, but I mean, this was a teacher who, more or less was alcohol is the way to go, and it made him a better teacher, and alcohol to the students, and just, I'm thinking, it's not that I want to be politically correct, but it was just, I think we watched that together, and I was done, and it was like, what? Foreign film and Best Director is nominated, and just, no. I mean, I wouldn't say it's as awful, as irritating as something like Kajillionaire or Hillbilly Elegy, but again, here's something that was so wildly praised and just, the eluded me, just did. Anyway, let's hear some of your worst.
Well, I'm going to disagree and try to defend Underwater really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I am shocked that is on your worst of the year. I could see some people watching that and liking it. I like it. It's not the greatest movie ever made, but you want to talk about like a good, like short, tense, sci-fi cosmic horror movie. I mean, Underwater's where it's at, and I even bought it because it's a guilty pleasure. I like it so much. Like,
if I'm going to have a guilty pleasure with that kind of movie, I'll go with the what's that big monster that they're making a sequel to with Jason Statham? The huge creature thing. God.
The Meg. Oh, the Meg. Yes. Oh,
yeah,
well,
the Meg.
Meg is
the
good
Meg
too.
Well, the Meg, as far as a guilty pleasure, I enjoyed the Meg. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a great movie, but I enjoyed it as far as
that's two different genres there, Mike. We're gonna do, Underwater is more of a cosmic horror kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. To me, it seemed like almost like a X-Files episode, but just deep underwater in like a mining community.
Short as it was, I thought it would never end. I thought it was a movie.
No, we're going to disagree on that. All right, I'm going to do I only have two from worst of the year.
Two? Oh my God.
When I do worst of the year, like these are movies people need to avoid. I don't think people need to avoid Underwater at all costs, but no, avoid at all costs Artemis Fowl.
Didn't see that.
Oh, don't. Well, don't. Because
spent a lot of money on that too.
Oh, big disappointment for Disney Plus, and I think even Kenneth Branagh directed, and terrible film. I don't even want to try to remember the plot. And then another one that got nominated for documentary for the Oscars that year, and you and I watched this together. You fell asleep for most of it, and I had to struggle through it. It was The Mole Agent.
What I remember of it when I wasn't sleeping was awful.
Yeah, you can avoid The Mole Agent. You don't even need to
I didn't go back and watch it again. No. Got it.
So, those are my only two on the worst of for 2020. So, anything else, Mike? Do you want to say on 2020?
Now, did you see Hillbilly Elegy, Midnight Sky, or Kajillionaire?
I saw Midnight Sky. And I would agree. I mean, again, it's not going to be like avoided at all costs for me, but yeah, that twist is pretty stupid and,
pretty stupid about covered it.
Yeah. Kajillionaire, no, and Hillbilly Elegy, I mean,
don't do it.
I may try to catch up on it at work, but I mean, no, with J.D. Vance and now he's running for our, Senate seat, it's, his commercial is laughing
because I want to get voters just a spineless man.
Yeah. So, all right, Mike, we're coming up in an hour. Let's try to wrap it up here. Anything else you want to say before we go?
No, I mean, I was surprised how how some of these movies stayed with me, and again, that's the important part. I mean, it's so weird to make a list from like 2 years ago. So, but I said the good ones do stay with you.
And, next year, if you want to look at your 2021s and do a little revision, which you've already done since our last show. So, let's, we can always bring that up and have the opportunity to review your 2021 when we do our 2022 list. So, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to wrap it up. Next week, we are going to do our weekly, monthly recap show. We're going to discuss the films that you and I, Mike, have seen recently. We'll also discuss, like we said earlier, what we're looking forward to seeing. Are we going to go see something in the theaters? Like I discussed Doctor Strange 2. So we got that to discuss coming up next show, and we'll also review any news and trailer drops that happened recently, and we'll cover that on our weekly show. So, Mike, anything you got to say before we go?
That's it. Sounds great. We'll talk to you next week.
Okay, Mike. We'll see everyone next week, and we'll see you at the movies. All right, Mike. Bye.
Bye-bye.